government has intensified its surveillance efforts to control the Aedes aegypti mosquito, which spreads dengue fever, chikungunya, and now the Zika virus. While the Ministry of Health is taking the lead, we all have to be proactive in ensuring our own health.
All mosquitoes will breed in still water, but Aedes aegypti specifically will breed in a containerized environment. You're looking for containers in and around your homes that are able to do so.
We'll have more on the Zika virus plus other important things to note in this Monday edition of Jamaica Magazine. The news is on the other side of this short break. Stay with us.
Nutritious food, succulent dishes, superior workmanship, and excellent service. Jamaica is on the go. Let's grow what we eat and eat what we grow. Let's harness the indomitable spirit of our most valued resource, our people. Let's support our local businesses. After all, buying Jamaican means building Jamaica. Original.
Good day, I'm Tamara McHale, and this is your GIS News for Monday, June 15. The results for the 2015 Grade 6 Achievement Test GSAT will be released this Wednesday. All regional offices should have the results on Wednesday afternoon, and the Education Ministry says principals can begin collecting their packages at 2 p.m. The ministry says this is being done to facilitate easy access and to ensure parents and students know their placements quickly. Over 38,000 students sat this year's Grade 6 Achievement Test. Recently, Education Minister Reverend Ronald Thwaites announced that students who were not placed in a school of their choice would be assigned to an institution close to home. Jamaica is a step closer to fully completing the International Migration and Development Policy and the Diaspora Policy. Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade State Minister Arnaldo Brown gave an update at the opening ceremony of the 6th Biennial Diaspora Conference now underway in Montego Bay, St. James. More from Andrea Chisholm.
The completion of the two policies was a major action item coming out of the previous Diaspora Conference in 2013. Those talks have yielded results.
The International Migration and Development Policy was approved by Cabinet for tabling in Parliament as a green paper pending 2 amendments. The revised document was resubmitted with an accompanying Cabinet submission in May 2015.
Work is also progressing on the National Migration Database to record and track migration trends. The Diaspora Policy, meanwhile, is being refined for submission to Cabinet. Prime Minister Portia Simpson Miller said the policy, which was developed in conjunction with members of the diaspora, would maximize their contributions to Jamaica while addressing their concerns.
The diaspora policy will also focus on engaging our people overseas in key areas of social and economic policy planning, including the National Economic Growth Agenda.
Now, over the next few days, participants will be updated on investment opportunities in key growth sectors such as agriculture, tourism, and business process outsourcing. There will also be an inaugural symposium on immigration and deportation, which is a major concern to members of the Jamaican diaspora. Reporting from Montego Bay, I am Andrea Chisholm for GIS News.
Meanwhile, the Diaspora Education Task Force, which was established after the 2013 conference, has begun to yield results.
As a result of this initiative, the task force, in collaboration with the United States Agency for International Development, has secured $250,000 United States dollars that will see the training and the enhancement in literacy and numeracy.
The Diaspora Education Task Force comprises individuals from the United States, Canada, and the United Kingdom. Following an education summit in February, the task force is currently working on a 6-year plan to transform Jamaica's education sector. And through the establishment of an advisor body in the Ministry of Health, diaspora medical missions are being streamlined. 53 families of Braco in Northern Trelawney are the proud recipients of keys to new housing units, provided under government's collaborative housing project with Food for the Poor Jamaica. The Braco residents got their keys during a recent ceremony. They are among more than 2,000 families across the island who have benefited under the housing program so far.
We have built over 2,400 houses so far. That partnership sees a unit costing $6,400, to which Food for the Poor, through their donors, have contributed a half, $3,200, and the government of Jamaica $3,200 for each unit that is built.
Each house has a comfortable living space, bed and bathrooms, and a kitchenette. They're all solar powered. Local entrepreneurs are being encouraged to take advantage of new and emerging opportunities in the gaming industry. Representatives from the Betting, Gaming and Lotteries Commission (BGLC) say several opportunities now exist in the industry as technology continues to change the face of gaming in Jamaica. They were guests at a recent GIS think tank.
This is how we see our industry making that leapfrog forward to be in line with the cutting edge of gaming in Jamaica.
Business prospects and other issues will be discussed at the second annual BGLC Gaming Industry Summit, which will be held this Thursday, June 18 at the Jamaica Conference Center.
People should come to the summit because if you have issues, this is your opportunity to voice it.
People who want to attend the summit can register by emailing the BGLC at info@bglc.gov.jm or by calling 630-1353. And finally, Governor General Sir Patrick Allen is urging St. Catherine residents to work with the newly installed custos of the parish.
I fervently encourage you to work within your communities, to collaborate with your justices of the peace, your custos, and the security forces to reverse the alarming rate of crime and violence which seeks to besmirch this beautiful parish.
The Governor General was speaking at the recent installation ceremony for Reverend Jeffrey Mackenzie. Sir Patrick also used the occasion to issue the magistrate's roll with the names of the parish's 612 justices of the peace. And that's it for GIS News today. I'm Tamara McHale. Thank you for watching.
It keeps our bodies working, our food nutritious, our living and working spaces clean, and our lives comfortable. Water, the most precious resource necessary for the sustenance of life on our planet. Don't waste it. Let's conserve on this critical commodity. In the house, invest in storage containers and buckets. Take quick showers instead of long baths, and invest in water-efficient shower heads, toilets, and faucets. You may also want to consider one-pot meals and cooking methods that don't require much water. You could also wash fruits and vegetables in a bowl and reuse the water on your plants or grass. When cleaning dishes, fill both sinks and use one for washing and the other for rinsing. The leftover water can be used to wash off the concrete or asphalt in your yard. If you must wash your car at home, aim for once a fortnight and use a bucket to do the washing instead of running the hose. Don't delay. Start your water conservation practices today.
Jamaica welcomes delegates and stakeholders attending the 6th Biennial Diaspora Conference, now on at the Montego Bay Convention Center. Jamaica and the diaspora, linking for growth and prosperity.
Prime Minister Portia Simpson Miller spent last week in Brussels, Belgium, where she held high-level talks with her EU and CARIFORUM counterparts. That story plus others in Jamaica House Weekly next.
Prime Minister attends successful EU CELAC summit. New development announced as PM opens 2015 Diaspora Conference, now underway in St. James. And new St. Catherine Custos gets a vote of confidence from the Prime Minister. I'm Stacey Ann Smith with Jamaica House Weekly. The long-awaited diaspora policy will soon be submitted to Cabinet, paving the way for greater contributions by Jamaicans living abroad. Prime Minister Portia Simpson Miller made the announcement Sunday as she opened the Biennial Diaspora Conference in Montego Bay. She said the policy represented input from the diaspora, which seeks to increase their contribution while addressing their concerns.
The diaspora policy will also focus on engaging our people overseas in key areas of social and economic policy planning.
And before the conference, the Prime Minister led a delegation to Brussels, Belgium, to participate in a summit between the European Union and the Community of Latin American and Caribbean States. It was held over 2 days last week. As the region's leading foreign investor and its second largest trading partner, talks with the EU centered on international issues and development. At the 2 plenary sessions, the 61 heads of state and government discussed climate change, security, drug trafficking, and issues relating to the post-2015 development agenda. Following those discussions, Prime Minister Simpson Miller joined her CELAC counterparts in signing a joint agreement with the EU. The transatlantic powers will now increase cooperation in the areas of migration, drug trafficking, poverty reduction, and climate change. The EU has also agreed to provide €800 million in support for the Caribbean and Latin American region. Of that amount, €346 million will go towards funding Caribbean programs up to 2020. The Caribbean will also benefit from €118 million in funding for strategic investment projects, €230 million towards sustainable development programs, and €81.5 million to finance capacity building initiatives. And of the €800 million, €25 million will go towards the construction of a new fiber optic cable connecting Latin America and the European Union. On Thursday morning, Mrs. Simpson Miller participated in a retreat where she voiced Jamaica's concern about the designation of some developing countries as middle-income countries. This effectively bars them from getting funding for development and economic support. She also called for greater levels of development financing for developing countries. By Thursday afternoon, Prime Minister Simpson Miller joined a meeting between the EU and the CARIFORUM group of countries. She also held bilateral talks with the Prime Ministers of Spain and Sweden, where the countries viewed areas of cooperation and sought to identify additional areas to pursue. And while Prime Minister Portia Simpson Miller was away at the EU CELAC summit, Land and Environment Minister Robert Pickersgill served as acting Prime Minister. Minister Pickersgill represented Mrs. Simpson Miller at a ceremony to install Reverend Jeffrey Mackenzie as the new Custos of St. Catherine.
The Prime Minister has every confidence in the abilities and suitability of the new Custos of St. Catherine to assume this high office and to make us all proud. His earning of the respect of the people in several communities in St. Catherine has been achieved through consistent hard work and a social consciousness that always goes beyond the call of duty.
At Thursday's ceremony, Reverend Mackenzie also received the Magistrate's Roll, containing the names of the 612 Justices of the Peace in St. Catherine. And that's how we close out Jamaica House Weekly. Join us next time for the latest stories out of the office of the Prime Minister.
We want a productive Jamaica. We all are productive Jamaicans. Productivity to move forward on this land. Productivity, that's the way to go, we should understand. Productivity is the way to go for all us Jamaicans. Small business, big business, old and young, we are tell every woman and man. We want growth and prosperity, free a better nation with a building plan. So we can build our product and sell our product and put more money in our hand. Our economy can rise to a level and build a better nation. Productivity to move forward on this land. Productivity, that's the way to go, we should understand. Productivity to move forward on this land. Productivity, that's the way to go, we should understand. Productivity.
Productivity, pathway to prosperity. A message brought to you by the Jamaica Productivity Center, a department of the Ministry of Labor and Social Security.
Hurricanes can strike at any time. In the event of one, be prepared to act quickly. If a hurricane watch or warning has been issued, review your home disaster response plan. Map out likely routes to evacuate if your home is at risk and confirm with relatives or friends you plan to stay with. Also, confirm the location of the nearest shelter. Check your emergency supplies and restock if necessary. Remember, disasters do happen, so be prepared.
your hurricane preparedness starts even before you're into the aspect of your hurricane watch, hurricane warning, that kind of thing. It starts long before that, where you're, as I said before, you're doing your checks to ensure that you have adequate hurricane straps. You, from a retrofitting standpoint, you look at pruning of your trees. You look at ensuring that you have adequate supplies, so you don't have a rush on the supermarket. What people normally tend to do, you run on the supermarket when you hear that we're getting a hurricane, and then you find out you might get there late and there is nothing. Ensure that you have your supplies in hand and you can rotate those supplies. Ensure that you have your medical supplies. There are a lot of persons that are diabetic, with a large population in Jamaica that are diabetic. You have people who suffer from respiratory problems and are asthmatic and stuff like that. Ensure that you always have those supplies. Ensure that your documents are protected. You don't want to end up in a situation where you don't have all your school certificates and you're unable to probably go, when you're going out for an interview, you can't locate them. Ensure that you always have adequate fuel in your car. I know fuel is expensive, but ensure that you do have that, because you might have to do some kind of emergency movement after the system. Do your general checks. Ensure that your windows are properly secured, your doors are properly secured. You don't want to have those go. Ensure that you talk to your neighbor and you develop some kind of response activity with your neighbor, because sometimes the first person that will come to your aid is actually your neighbor. So these are some of the things that people should consider before the system.
Get the facts about the Zika virus in this next feature.
The Zika virus is transmitted by the Aedes aegypti mosquito. The Aedes aegypti is a vector. This means it's able to carry and transmit a virus to human beings. The Aedes aegypti is a vector for chikungunya, dengue fever, and now the Zika virus.
After being bitten by an infected mosquito, it takes about 3 to 12 days to come down with symptoms. The common symptoms include a fever of sudden onset, a rash, red eyes or without pus, that's a non-purulent conjunctivitis. You may have joint pains, muscle pains that are similar to other viral infections. What's kind of different about Zika has this red eye, the swelling of the legs. You may have some paralysis. One that is mentioned often is facial nerve palsy or facial nerve weakness. There may be complications, rarely, of Zika virus infection, which may require hospitalization. This is rare, however. There has been no reported deaths related to Zika virus to date. It's usually a very mild viral infection, so persons can actually stay at home with it using paracetamol. However, if you are having something that is different or severe, the suggestion is for you to seek medical attention. You can also transmit the Zika virus to others. So the recommendation is, once you believe you have an infection caused by a mosquito, you are to prevent yourself from being bitten. That means using mosquito repellents and mosquito nets and so on.
To get rid of the Zika-causing Aedes aegypti mosquito, we all have to be vigilant and proactive. And it starts right there in your home.
All mosquitoes will breed in still water, but Aedes aegypti specifically will breed in a containerized environment. So the public needs to understand it. So it's not in your gully, it's not in your rivers or the drains that are blocked, that needs to be cleaned. But as it relates to the control of this vector, you're looking for containers in and around your homes that are able to do so.
Outside the home, pay attention to garden implements that may retain water, such as a wheelbarrow or a flower pot and saucer. Also, check pet feeding containers, kiddies' swimming pools, broken bottles, tin cans, buckets, and paint cans. Mosquitoes also breed in broken tree limbs, brick fences, uncovered drums and barrels, tires within the home, the draining trays of dish drainers, the bottom of the refrigerator, and unused toilet bowls. They also like cool, dark places such as closets, cupboards, and underneath beds. Remember,
this particular mosquito, the Aedes aegypti mosquito, she feeds inside and she rests inside.
While there are no known or suspected cases of the Zika virus on the island, the Aedes aegypti mosquito also spreads dengue fever and the chikungunya virus. So we have to ensure that our homes and our communities are not mosquito breeding sites.
Prayer is extremely powerful, and so is a seatbelt.
Slow down, drivers, you're moving too fast. Listen, we drive the cars. Cars don't drive us. So watch it now. Pay attention to the road rules. Don't be a fool, and don't bother with the careless overtaking. Just take your time on our Jamaica road and make we have a nice place. See? This is Taurus Riley, your singer and the recording artist. Help me to save lives.
One head injury can create a serious challenge for an entire family.
The Prime Minister is right. Since the start of the year, 150 Jamaicans have lost their lives in a road crash. This next feature focuses on one of the more vulnerable road users, pedal cyclists, or bicycle riders, as we call them.
For some, it's a leisure time physical activity. For others, particularly in the rural areas, it is a popular mode of transportation. But whichever it is, one should never forget the safety precautions. Hi, welcome to another edition of Road Scholars. I'm Alison. Stay with us for tips to protect pedal cyclists.
It seems one of the easiest and most cost-effective ways to get from one destination to another. But despite how you choose to travel, there are vulnerabilities, and it's up to you to protect yourself and others as best as possible. It's even more important for pedal cycle users, as they have remained among the top 5 on the list of road fatalities. In a 9-year period since 2000, 400 pedal cyclists were killed. The only groups that accounted for more lives lost were motor vehicle drivers and passengers and pedestrians. With all that in mind, you can see why it's so important for this group of road users to take steps to ensure their safety. When a pedal cyclist is involved in any type of collision, he or she is likely to be thrown from the cycle. The extent and severity of injuries depend on various factors. How hard was the collision force? How far was the rider and or passenger flung? What happens upon landing and immediately after? For example, if both the motor car and the bicycle collide head-on with both traveling at a general speed of 80 kilometers per hour, the collision force would be greater than if they were traveling at 50 kilometers per hour. The momentum produced from the collision would perhaps result in greater damage too, and if the rider is thrown from the cycle, it would result in him or her being thrown higher and further. The cyclist would perhaps hit the ground with greater force, increasing the severity of injuries.
Here's something else that can affect the outcome. Was the rider and or passenger wearing protective devices? No doubt that could mean the difference between life and death.
As head injuries are extremely common in these types of crashes, it's no surprise that the authorities have made it mandatory for pedal cyclists to cover their heads with a legal helmet.
This is a bicycle helmet. light, fiberglass, a lot of holes here can come through. Very properly ventilated. When you're on a bicycle, you tend to exercise, use more muscles, and so you tend to sweat a lot.
Helmets are made to fit special standards which dictate that the materials used to manufacture its components are of the best quality to allow proper protection and cushion the head of riders and their passengers from the full effects of the most crushing injuries. But it's also important to reduce the likelihood of other injuries that could change a pedal cyclist's life for a long time. Broken bones and serious cuts and bruises can be minimized if riders also wear gloves, knee pads, and a cycler's jacket.
So you are all geared up and ready to hit the road. But how you operate in the traffic environment also has implications for your safety. Here are some tips to consider.
Never ride on the sidewalk, break the one-way, disobey traffic lights and other signs, race, or perform bicycle stunts while riding. You should also refrain from using drugs, alcohol, cell phones, and other electronic devices. Carrying pillion passengers. In the corporate area, this is illegal. And avoid using retreaded tires, as this is dangerous. Pedal cyclists should ride in a single file and be courteous to other road users.
Remember, we are trying to save lives, minimize injury, and make our roads safer for everyone. I'm Alison, and this has been Road Scholars. Travel safely.
When you use the road, you need to be aware of how your action affects others.
I go around the corner. Only to see a man stopping on the big road. But some people are crossing on a blind corner.
When motorists have to stop on the green light to allow people to cross, it creates problems.
People just can't walk out on the road, so man. From a corner, from behind vehicle, they need to be more careful, man.
We have overhead bridges, pedestrian crossings, and crosswalks. Some of them even have signals to tell you when to cross.
People, walk on the sidewalk. If there is none, walk on the right side. And please, if you can't find a pedestrian crossing, make sure the road clear before you cross. Drivers need to drive good.
But pedestrians need to walk good too.
Walk good.
And that's our show. Keep the lines of communication open, won't you? Email us, jamaicamagazine@gis.gov.jm, or join us on Twitter and Facebook. We also have a new app that can be downloaded from the Google Play Store. Visit our ever-reliable website, jis.gov.jm, for loads of information on what's happening in Jamaica. On behalf of the entire team here at the JIS, I'm Audrey Williams. Thanks for watching.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.